what you want to think about is take the heel and try to stamp the heel down into the floor. You see when she does that, her glutes tense just that little bit more. We get that tiny little bit of pop up from the hip that's going to give her some extra momentum off the chest. What's up, guys? So in a little bit, we're going to go through how we go about getting a good arch and a good setup in the bench, both for flat foot and for tiptoe. But there's a couple of things that we want to talk about before we do that. And the first of that is going to be, why would we bother arching in the first place? It's not just a trick that powerlifters are going to use to reduce the range of motion in their legal competition lifts. It's actually going to do a lot of other things. It's going to help us anchor the shoulder better. It's going to put us in a more stable position where we can use the legs to fortify the upper back stability that we create on the bench, and it is going to allow us to create a range of motion that for most people is more joint friendly, or should we at least more stable than the shoulder. For most people, as soon as we start going past that kind of midline in the body and the elbow starts dropping back here, the amount of shoulder stress that we experience is going to go up and up and up, which for a lot of people means that the bench press ends up becoming a high wear and tear exercise that they either can't do frequently or they don't end up being able to do for a long time, or enough to actually even get good at it in the first place. So we limit the range of motion in a safe manner, we create whole body stability, and we create an environment where the shoulder can be packed down into a more stable position and move better. But there is such thing as too much arch. And we have Haley here, who is very flexible, who can demonstrate this now. If we look at Haley's back, which as we can see is very easy to see all the things that are going on back here, we have Haley's shoulder blade here, which is her base of support on the bench, just like your foot would be for a squat or a deadlift or anything like that. If Haley arches as hard as she can, if she were to be on a bench right now, probably even less than half of her shoulder blade would be on the bench. Sure, her range of motion would be really short. Haley, if you can like turn 90 degrees for us, arch super hard, like, yeah, that's a really short range of motion. That's kind of cool. But she's basically trying to squat on her tiptoes down here. And then the other thing that we're going to lose now is because she's also super retracted, her shoulder joint is already jammed back as far as it can go, which is a problem when you're trying to pull the bar into your body. Again, you can do that wide grip seated row kind of demo for us. See, if we're naturally doing a rowing motion, we can see the shoulder joint naturally wants to glide to the front of the rib cage a little bit and to the back. Whereas if we're in this super arch, super retracted position, it's already pinned onto the back of the rib cage back here, and there's not really any further retraction that can happen. This means the arm and the shoulder can't kind of behave as they want to naturally, puts a lot of shoulder stress back here, and usually means this ends up being very unstable. Thank you. So you may be shortening the range of motion, but a lot of the time you actually end up worse off. So what we want to show you is a way of setting up where you can get the best of both worlds, where you do reduce the range of motion, you do get the stability from your legs, but we don't sacrifice any stability to create that in the shoulder joint. Now, what's going to be a little bit different here compared to how most will probably say to set up is what we're doing up top with the shoulders. Most will teach, if we can go side on again, pretty please. Most will teach to be in a maximally retracted position. If you can put your arms out for me and just drive back hard. This is where most people will teach you to be, which can work. The problem with this is that A, her lats are going to be completely jammed up right now. So if she pulls her shoulders down, her lats are so tense and contracted here, they can't actually contribute to the pulling of the bar down to her body. The other problem here, like I said, is she now has no glide here at all. So when she's pulling that bar down, her shoulder's essentially jammed into position. This usually ends up putting a lot of pressure onto the bicep and stuff here. So what we're going to do, it's a little bit different. If you can just relax a little bit for me. Instead, when we set up, what we want to think about is making the neck as long as we can. So just pull your shoulders straight down into your body, and then from there, widen the collarbones as wide as you can. So if you were on stage and you had to make your shoulders as wide as possible, what position would you put your shoulders in? That's where we want to be. The reason for that is, again, if we look at Haley's back now, this is how much width we have now. Okay, this is our footprint of stability. If we were to go maximally retracted, this is now our footprint here. Much, much narrower. Whereas if she goes widest possible collarbones, Boom. Now she's taking up way more of the bench pad. She can spread that load through more area. And if her arm is now out on a bar, as she pulls the bar down, she also has room now where she can get a little bit of retraction. So this whole relationship here can behave better. So that's going to be the main difference that we're going to go through now, but we're going to go through both flat foot and tiptoe setup. Let's go over flat foot setup first. Now you should probably experiment with both, but as we were just saying off camera, generally speaking, individuals who have a shorter torso or are less flexible, tends to be males, are going to get more out of being flat-footed because they're not going to get as much extra arch out of going tiptoes compared to like your more flexible female, generally speaking. What happens is in the flat foot, we get more stability because the whole foot's on the floor. We get an increased ability to leg drive if that's what you're going to do, but we are going to have a slightly longer range of motion. Now, if you're someone who's got like really long arms and a low touch point, that extra leg drive is really helpful because it helps push the bar back this way. You got little T-Rex arms and your touch point is up here. You don't really need any extra horizontal travel help with that. So maybe the leg drive's not needed for you. In that scenario, maybe the tiptoe is going to be better. But you should experiment with both and see which one is better for you. So we're going to go over flat foot first. Now, what we're going to have Haley do here, you're going to lay back on the bench for me, grab the bar with your regular grip. Okay, and what we're gonna do to start is Haley's gonna put her feet up on the bench and do a glute bridge. And the goal here is to get her hips as high and as far down the bench as she can get. When she does this now, she's gonna keep the hips up high as she can and pull her shoulders down, so lengthen your neck. And in this position now, once you've lengthened the neck, instead of maximally retracting, I want you to think spread the collarbones as wide as you can, like we discussed a minute ago. Okay, so that is now your upper back set. That's where we want it. If you can't see your neck from a video side on when you're benching, you're doing this wrong. Okay, so right now Haley's got a long neck, her shoulders are depressed and her shoulders are wide. Now, let's keep this foot on the bench. You're gonna push through this leg hard as you can. I want you to put this foot down on the floor on tiptoes, like you would if you were setting up for a tiptoe bench, so nice and far back towards your head. Very flexible, that's good. So now, this is your anchor point down here. Push through this to keep the hips up high. Put this down on the floor on tiptoes also. Perfect. Now we're in this position. What we're gonna have Haley do is set her hips on the bench as close to her shoulders as she can. Okay, so there. So now the shoulders are down and wide. Both feet are on tiptoes for now. Her glutes and her shoulders are on the bench, which is what we need. From this position, I want you to shuffle your feet out, like say 11 and 1 on a clock face. Shuffle them forward until you can literally just get your heels down on the floor. So like it should take 90% effort from your legs to keep your heels down. Go a tiny bit more, I'll see them fully down. Right now, in this position, go ahead and push down hard as you can for me. That's it, and relax. And push as hard as you can. See how now, because she's got her feet in the right position, even if she pushes as hard as she cannot move her glutes off the bench. That's how we know that she's in the right position. And now what I want you to do is just like let your air out and just completely let all the tension out. See how everything just kind of collapses down? That means we're in a good position. So we're gonna go, if you just relax for me again, we're gonna go through that whole process one more time. Was that comfortable?
Yeah.
It was. Okay, we need to make it tighter.
My glutes, it was not comfortable.
Okay,
They were
good,
tight.
Good, okay. So let's go through that one more time. Grab your regular bench press grip. Okay, so feet are on the bench, hips as high and as far down the bench as you can get them. And then you're gonna do like a mini inverted row on the bar. So you're gonna pick your upper body up off the bench. The shoulders are gonna come down to create the longest possible neck. And then from there, we're gonna spread the collarbones. Imagine like you're trying to get your back to take up the whole bench pad. Good. So now we pick a foot. That one stays on the bench. The other one goes down on tiptoes as close to us as we can. This one now becomes the anchor. And this one goes down on tiptoes. Perfect. And now with the feet still on tiptoes, we get the glutes on the bench as close to the shoulder as we can. And now we shuffle forward until her heels can literally just get on the floor. Perfect, just hold that for 1 second. We'll help you unrack it, and I just want you to hold it for just a second. Okay, hold it in the position that you normally would. Okay, so one thing we can see here straight away is we look at the wrist position. It's cocked back. So what we want to see here is his knuckles up, and to achieve that, what we need to do is get this upper arm rotated in. If we do that, don't think about it coming from the hand because that will mess with your wrist position again. Knuckles up and rotate this in. That's going to set the lats in the position that we want and allow us to get this nice stacked position up the forearm into the wrist from that position. That would be Haley's flat foot setup. If she just came in the gym today and needed to learn how to bench. Let that for me. Okay, so let's go over tiptoe setup next. Now this one's gonna be a little bit different. As we saw with the flat foot setup, the feet are the thing that gets set last. You know, they're on tiptoes and they shuffle out and we kind of find that ideal position where it takes like 90% effort just to keep the heel down, and then no matter what, if we push as hard as we can, we still can't move the glutes off the bench. That's perfect. Tiptoe setup is gonna get us a bigger arch, but the feet need to be in a position that we couldn't get them into willingly. And what I mean by that is, your tiptoe setup is not going to be a position for your feet where you could just shuffle your feet back and get them there. So because of that, here the feet get set first and then we set up around them and we wedge into the feet and they become the anchor for the whole setup from there. So what we're going to have Haley do now is, I want you to put your feet on tiptoes where you would want them at the end of your setup. Now, for most people, a good guideline is if you do your tiptoe setup well and you have good flexibility, once you're set up, you want your hip bone near as down directly over your heel. That's kind of a good place to be. So Haley now has her feet where she wants them. Now, when we say tiptoe, bear in mind, we don't mean like ballet dancer. We mean the balls of your feet should be on the floor. We're already sacrificing enough stability here as we are. Now, we have to do a little bit of a swan lake maneuver to get back behind the bar, if you don't mind. Okay, this is why you need to do your mobility work. So the feet do not move at any point. I want you to grab the bar and I want you to do what we did last time in terms of that inverted row. So pull your upper body up off the bench, lengthen the neck, spread the shoulder blades as wide as you can. Okay, perfect. Now, keeping this upper back setup, I want you to take your hands off the bar and put them on the uprights. And now on the uprights, Haley's gonna actively push her shoulders down the bench as close to her hips as humanly possible. Perfect. Okay, now put your hands back on the bar. Now we've kept this depressed shoulder position. The shoulders are still wide, but as we saw, when we pushed in on here and we've got that immovable object that are the feet now down on the floor, we've got way more arch here than we did before. So I'm gonna help you unrack this now.
Dino arms.
And just hold it at lockout for me. Good, so now again, if Haley pushes through her feet hard as she can, she ain't going anywhere. But you can see how before when she had flat foot, she moved a little bit, but now when she pushes, there's almost nothing. Now we've got this better start position at the top here. Just rack that for me, beautiful. Can you hold that for like another 30 seconds? Now, if you do want to do leg drive, if your setup is good and you justify like adding this layer of complexity, the mechanism's going to be different, right? On flat foot, we're primarily spreading the floor that way. So we're pushing the toes out through the front of the shoes, whatever you want to think about, because leg drive can only put force horizontally, not vertically. People thinking about it vertically is why their ass comes off the bench.
Yep.
Here, we have no ability to drive that way because Haley's feet are so far back under her hip. There's no room there to drive the feet forward. Instead, here, what you want to think about is take the heel and try to stamp the heel down into the floor. You see, when she does that, her glutes tense just that little bit more. We get that tiny little bit of pop up from the hip that's gonna give her some extra momentum off the chest, which can be really, really useful when we're in this tiptoe setup here and we're less stable, because that can mean that we can struggle to get it off the chest just because more of our shoulder blade is off the bench. So if we can get this little bit of extra here by stamping the heels down, that can help us get through that initial sticking point just off the chest. So we just want to add this little bit onto the end. Since we mentioned leg drive, we're going to go down that rabbit hole a little bit further. If you're on your flat foot setup now, we discussed like how it's mostly pushing out and away, but then the question has to come up, like most of the time when you're thinking about the bench press, the idea will be, if you're already pushing into the floor as hard as you can, where does leg drive come from? i.e., if I'm here at lockout and I'm pushing 100% with my legs already to maintain the setup that I've created, what creates leg drive? You can't go more than 100%, so the momentum has to come from somewhere. And that's where, again, if you're pretty well-seasoned bencher and your technique's very good, you can actually start to change the way that you apply leg pressure during the eccentric and concentric to create leg drive. Because in reality, you can't create less leg drive unless something slackens off a little bit, because otherwise there's nothing to contract and nothing to move. So what that means is, On the way down, it's actually going to be a hamstring movement. And on the way up, it's going to be a quad movement. So there's going to be like a leg curl and a leg extension style movement. What that's going to do is when you do that well, your hip is actually going to shift on the bench very slightly. The glutes stay tense the whole time because if they relax, the glutes are just going to come off the bench. But they stay tight. And then if you have good mind muscle connection, which this individual really, really should, we can keep the glutes tight, contract the hamstring, and the hip will shift down the bench, kind of down and into the bench. And then we keep the glutes tight. And when we reverse the movement, the quads will tense and then it will go up the bench. But it will just kind of like twitch back and forth when you do it well. When you do it badly, you end up looking like a salmon flopping around on the bench, okay? Or if you've got a really silly, slippery bench pad, but then you know where to get a better bench. So let's go ahead and do the flat foot setup once again. So Haley's gonna start with her little glute bridge. So get the hips nice and high. The shoulders again, remember we're gonna set them down first, so the longest possible neck that you can create, and then broaden the collarbones like you're trying to get your shoulder blades to swallow the entire bench pad. We're gonna go down one leg at a time onto tiptoes, keeping the hips high as we can. We're then gonna put the glutes on the bench as close to the shoulders as we can, and then we're gonna shuffle the feet out until the heels can just get on the floor. Noah, if you can come around to the side. Okay, so what we're gonna have Haley do now, let's just unrack this to add some pressure to the situation. Knuckles up. So in this position, you don't have to actually move the bar, but we're gonna do the leg. I want you to contract your hamstrings hard as you can. So pull your hip down the bench this way. There, now push through your quads. See how the hip moves? Go hamstrings, quads. Hamstrings, quads. Hamstrings. See how her chest is rising and dropping and the hip is moving a little bit up and down the bench. That is how you have leg drive. So bring the bar down nice and slow for me, contract the hamstrings hard as you can. We got lots of tension here. And then as she goes to initiate the press, it would be quads first that help impart that momentum into the bar. So hamstrings and then quads. Perfect, and rack it for me. So what we're doing there is we're recreating that little jolty type movement that we got to see with the tiptoe setup, but this is now how we create it with the flat foot setup instead. It's not stamping the heels down like we saw earlier. Now instead it's swapping between trying to drag the heels in and trying to push the toes away. That's what allows us to actually create momentum with the legs at the bottom position.